go to Dallas and play Texas A&M. They have a really good team. Obviously, a big win for them over Miami on Saturday. They have a lot of speed in the secondary. They're big on the D line, big at linebackers. Can really stretch the field on as wideouts. They had some guys suspended last week. I don't know whether they're coming back or not, but you have to stop 6 and 0 on offense. It's hard to do. Chain is really fast, and of course, Anaya Smith he's dangerous running the ball, catching the ball, and obviously on punt returns, along with a Chain on kickoff returns. So Max Johnson played really well, I thought, against Miami, and they've got a good special teams group. Just a really solid team, big team. It looked like a big physical SEC team, and have a lot of respect for Coach Fisher. I would consider him a friend of mine, and certainly have a lot of respect for him and his program and the guys on his staff. So with that, we'll get to answering.
Yeah, Coach, I was curious after watching film of the last game, if there's anything that maybe was different than what you thought from watching live that maybe you took away.
Well, I thought our defensive line, I thought they played well. I can put it in a nutshell for you. We didn't tackle well as a team. We're having a hard time covering opponents. We've had that the entire year. On offense, you can't turn the ball over 3 and get 9 on defense. So 3-0. That took that 99% computer winning to 11, and that's about what it felt like out there. But on offense, we had a lot of really good performers. I thought our line played well, and we've got to throw it a little bit better. We got to catch it a little bit better, but we can't turn the ball over, and that's what we did. And in a nutshell, that's special teams helped us. We still have a couple penalties in there that hopefully we can get fixed. We'll try our best today to get that fixed, but that's really what I saw. We didn't tackle well. We didn't cover well. And on offense, we turned the football over, and that's kind of what happens. Luckily, we got out with a win.
Is there some stuff with tackling, like from a fundamental deal, that you go back and review this week? And what about coverage? What do you do about that this week?
Well, tackling, we started last week in open field tackling, and we brought down the scout team wideouts and running backs, and just trying to get them on the ground. We missed a lot of tackles at linebacker as well, so we have to add that group in there. Last week was just a secondary, and so I think we just continue to do that. And your other question was what, Trey?
Just in the secondary coverage issues. Is there something that you can do to fix that?
Well, I think the first thing is you have to make sure you have the right people in the right spots. I'm talking about pre-snap, not where they're aligned. I'm saying, do we have our best players on the field? I think you have to figure that out first. And we've been adjusting. Part of it was because of the couple of injuries, but part of it is we had some new guys back there as well. So we're going to experiment a little bit this week and see if we can't get the right people in the right spots. I think Slusher, he's going to practice today, so he'll be back, and that should help us as well. But I think Malik Chavis is a guy we need on the field, and when he's not playing corner, we need him at safety. And I'm not for sure if we don't need him at safety and just put Hutt at corner. I think those are questions that we have that we need to make. We got to get our best 5 guys out there on the field at all times. Obviously, we know they get hurt, but those are things that we've talked about as a staff. We've got to figure that out a little bit better.
Was McLaughlin hurt Saturday night, or I didn't see much in the second half, Coach, which I could have missed him.
You look great, by the way.
Thank you, man. I'm feeling a lot better.
Are you?
Yeah.
Nudie got hurt, hamstring. wasn't much to it because he lifted and all that yesterday, but and he'll practice today. So, but that was a hamstring that he had.
Nate wanted me to ask you this. Have you seen the difference between the quarterback at A&M this year? I know that's been one game, I guess, compared to LSU last year.
No, not a lot. I mean, obviously they're running a little bit similar system, you know. I don't see they're going to run the ball a little bit more with their other guy. I know you're comparing Johnson to last year, but we didn't see a whole lot of change in what they did at LSU. And you know, they're asking him to throw the football, and he, you know, he ran his own read and kept the ball. And I mean, he's still a guy that can hurt you with his feet. Just like they used him a little bit at LSU as well, but he's in there to manage the game and throw the football. To me, he was at LSU and he is at A&M.
Yeah, Hazelwood get banged up a little bit too, Shaden.
Not that I remember.
Okay.
No, I mean, he wasn't on our injury report today.
For you guys are leading the country in sacks per game. Flip side of that, maybe committing more guys. You're leading the country in passing yards allowed. Can you live with that, or what's your take on it?
Well, we had to get better at both of them, really, but obviously there's a little bit more urgency of covering people. You know, we can live with guys getting good throws, and we can't live with guys wide open. You know, and you know, if somebody's going to beat us, they need to beat us with us attempting to cover the guy. You know, and we've had obviously too many mistakes there, and backs coming out of the backfield, things of that nature, where we're in man coverage and we've got to peel a linebacker out there and things of that nature. And I will say this: we're doing exactly what we think is best for us to win. There have been conversations about, you know, going back and running what we ran last year, you know, double cloud about 90% of the snaps, and it worked some games and it didn't some games. So I think we'll get a mixture of that going forward, but we've got to fix that problem, and everybody in the building's aware of it. And how we do that is going to be a combination of who's on the field and the opponent, whether we feel like we can cover them man to man or not. And if we can't cover them in zone coverage, then we definitely have to put pressure on the quarterback, because that's something that we're good at. But to do that, you have to be able to play some man, even though we went into some quarters, halves coverage and rushed Drew Sanders last week in the second half. Seemed to work out a little bit better for us.
Rocket said that his game did not make up for that fumble. And I just wonder what you think about him as a person, like how important the game is to him and what he's meant to you so far.
You know, the thing about Rocket is, and it's true. I mean, he's the first guy, he's early to study table. I mean, all his teachers, you know, we've had a few academic captains, academic staff captain. If he's in a class, they love him. That's how he is. Things bother him. He's a perfectionist. That's probably what makes him good. He's very talented, but his want to is higher than his talent, if that makes sense. And just a really, really fine kid, and he takes things personal. I'm glad he didn't take them too long. I mean, we fumbled the ball and then came back and continued to have a really good game. He had a good game before that, and then had a really good game after that as well.
You said last week that when you're evaluating transfers, you also want to look at how they are off the field and as kids. So what was it about Jordan Dominic specifically that impressed you and stood out about his character?
His parents, to be perfectly honest with you, once we hit his mannerisms over the phone, you know, your phone recruiting, you know, we never had met him before. Then talking to his mom and dad, they're classy people, wonderful people. And then when we got him on, he was a guy that just wanted to compete in this league. There wasn't a problem at Georgia Tech where he's going, I don't like the coach, or I don't like practice, I don't like this. It was about, look, I've got an opportunity to go to the SEC. I'd like to see if I'm good enough to play in the SEC. So the reasons have something to do with that as well. But his parents, his family, you knew that he was going to be a good kid by the way he was raised, and he came in and it was a shock to him. If you ask him, he'll tell you it was a shock to him about our work ethic. Nah, that's not fair to say, about how we run our program versus where he came from. And that's not a knock at Georgia Tech at all. They're obviously different than what we do.
Coach Ruggett was asked on Saturday if he feels like he's starting to make a statement nationally, and he said he does. I'm curious, did you expect this start from him to the season?
I expected him to be a really good player. I don't know if I expected us to use him as much as we have. He was primarily the only guy that played. He wasn't, but very few reps for AJ and R-Dub. The way the game was going and where we were behind the whole game, until the very, very end of the game. We just felt like as long as he wasn't tired, that he was our guy that we were going to go to. But to answer your question, I knew he would have production. I just didn't know we would use him quite as much and as we are, and probably a little bit surprised with his numbers that he's had. And that's not that I didn't believe in him. It's just he's had more attempts than what I thought probably at this point in time.
And then with Chavis and Hudson Clark, it looked like they were rotating series on Saturday. Is that something that you plan on doing moving forward?
I don't know. That again is, can we move, do we feel good enough about moving Chavis, to a safety? With Slusher coming back, we have some opportunities to have some movement, basically it's sort of like in the back end, it's sort of like, it depends on if we're in a 3 or 4 man front, but most of the time we've been in a 4 man front a lot this year. And so you got 5 of them working back there, counting your nickel, sort of like an offensive line. You don't necessarily go, okay, this is my best left tackle, best that you just say, okay, who are my 5 best players? And then you piece them in there when they need to go. I think a little bit of that's going to happen to us this week. And it could be Chavis on the field at safety, or even Hud on the field at safety. I don't know exactly, but we're certainly going to look at it.
Sam, I think Appalachian State ran like 80 plus plays against A&M. They just couldn't get off the field. But then last week they hold Miami, ranked team to 9 points. What do you think about their defense last week, and maybe the improvement they made from game 2 to game 3?
Well, they played in my opinion, they played 2 totally different offenses. Miami tried to throw the ball quite a bit, was having success running the football, but Miami had wideouts they wanted to get the ball to, and this and that. App State was more of a, we're coming at you, we're going to run the football, a little bit of play action, things of that nature. We're going to try to run right at you, stuff like that. So there was 2 different offenses going against their defense. Their defense is big and physical and can run. I think they've got a lot of strengths. One of them is their secondary. They're really good in the back end. So I think they got better last week. You'd have to ask Jimbo, but I think they got a lot better in a week's time. But there was 2, in my opinion, totally different offenses ran against the defense.
You obviously got Sanders and Dominic to boost your pass rush, but have they been even better than you could have anticipated through these first 3 games?
Yes, I think both of them are not, Drew came with all the accolades and all that kind of stuff. But yes, I think they're both playing better than even I would have imagined, and I think they'll continue to improve. I think they haven't really hit where they're going to.
Bob kind of just stole my question, but I'll ask you about KJ. has been really effective with his legs, but he threw the ball a lot more this past game. You feel like he's kind of developed into a full, do everything type quarterback and proven he can do that?
I believe he can. I mean, I would say this going into last year's game here at A&M, our main concern is how are we going to run KJ? How are we going to run KJ? How are we going to run him? And that's not the belief that we didn't feel like he could throw the ball, because obviously threw one to Burks, and threw the ball when we had to, or when they gave it to us, probably the better word to say. But now he can hurt you either way. Very confident throwing the football. We got to get him revved up early. We got to get him involved in the game early, whether that be running or whether that be throwing. I don't think we really called a significant run to him where it was just his run until the third quarter the other night. And that was say, hey, we better get him involved, even though we were running the ball decent, we better get him involved.
Hey, Coach, just going back to the win over A&M last year, how important was that game, just punching through and breaking the losing streak in the series in terms of the trajectory of the program and getting it to where you wanted it to go?
Well, it felt good. I mean, I'll say that. I remember going into the locker room after the game, and we were 4-0 at the time, and it felt awful good. I think we'd lost 9 in a row. I think they won 9 out of 10. And something like 9 out of 13 they've won. But I think we won the first 3 in the trophy game I'm talking about in the Southwest Classic. It felt really good. I think it was really important to us because we had been fortunate enough to beat Texas and then come back and beat Texas A&M. I felt like it would do something for us on a national appearance, and I knew it would help us in recruiting in Texas, but I thought like it was a CBS game, I think 2:30 game, and I felt like it would help us in recruiting. But yeah, it felt awful good. But yeah, I thought it was an important game for us to have as a win.
There was a real special video that came out of the Lions camp yesterday.
Yeah.
Something that you commented on. What did it mean to you? And is it going to be a message to the boys this week?
Well, I love Dan Skipper. I mean, him and about everybody I've ever coached. But Danny called me last week. I don't think he'll mind me sharing. I hope he doesn't. I don't think he will, but he called me last week and told me he's going to get his first start, and he was 6 years in, he had been cut, down to the practice. He said, I'm gonna get my first start. And he was very complimentary of me, like I had one thing to do with that, which I did not. He did all that. But then that video, Coach Campbell doing that was awesome. And I called Dan after I saw it last night, and visited with him a little bit. But that was pretty special by Coach Campbell to do that and then send him up so he can have the pleasantry of talking to all you guys in Detroit. And I thought that's pretty cool. I text Coach Campbell as well. I thought it was pretty cool. And he texted me back, but he didn't have to do that either, but I thought it was really neat. I asked him about old Frankie. He said Frankie's a stud, which we all knew that.
Hey, Sam, I think I have this right. You coached in the Red River game when you were at OU, and then you coached in the cocktail party when you were at Georgia. Is there a uniqueness to preparing for one of these neutral site games?
It's electric. Those games are electric. Now, we didn't win. Thanks for reminding me about the Red River. I'm 0-2. We didn't do so hot when I was at Oklahoma back in 96 and 97, 98. But it's neat. You don't normally walk into a stadium and it's even Steven fans. Hotels have same similar number of occupants from both teams. It's really cool. Being in Mr. Jones Stadium is really neat. And, I didn't take the team in there last year, which I'm not this year either on a Friday, but I said, oh, it's just a stadium. And about, I'd been there in 13, 14, 15. And I walked in there, I go, holy cow. I mean, that thing is huge and nice. And I was go, well, maybe I should have brought them in, but we got off to a fast start. So, but yeah, there's really something neat about that. It really is where both fans meet in a town. And the Georgia-Florida game was, and still is, obviously a great feeling for the fans and for the players.
About the number of Rockets touches and just watching that. Do you feel like he's holding up well right now?
I do. I mean, and yes. Yeah, he's a big, powerful guy too. And but he's a smart runner. He's learning that when you get wrapped up by a couple guys, it's time to get down. He's starting to learn that instead of standing up there and taking the guy coming from 10 yards away and knocking the heck out of him. He's become, in my opinion, a smarter runner, trying to take away those last second shots on him. But yeah, he's held up really well.
You mentioned the secondary for Texas A&M. I was curious what you thought about the wide receiver play so far, in particular for you guys. Matt Lander seems like he's really starting to charge on.
Matt, like I said the other night, he was really down on himself last week. I mean, into Wednesday. And then to come out and have that game, hopefully it propels him to something even better, something special. But I've been real happy with the receivers, including Trey in that, Knox in that. And, basically we're playing four. But obviously Bryce Steam has found a way to impact the game, in the special teams. But I thought going into the season we had a good receiver core, and I do now. I think you got to cover each and every. I mean, you had to have somebody pretty good on defense against each one of them. And yeah, I've been real pleased with those guys. We dropped a couple of balls the other night that we got to catch.
Landon Jackson was one of the best high school players I've seen in his position, Coach. It seemed like last Saturday, maybe in the second half, seemed like he's getting healthy. He gained confidence. It looked like he kind of getting back to where Landon Jackson.
I agree with you. He's playing with a lot more speed, a lot more confidence. Obviously, he started last week with Stu being out, but yes, I think if you look at him and Drew Sanders both, I think they're getting better each week. I think they're becoming more comfortable with the system and their teammates and things of that nature. But yes, I agree with you 100%.
When you went back and saw the tape, Missouri State just came out fast. They were breaking tackles and all. What did you see maybe in terms of just the energy that they started the game and like what y'all needed to do to blunt that maybe?
Well, I mean, they had a good scheme on us. We came out of the gate not covering and not tackling, is what happened. But they had a really good scheme, and their quarterback was fantastic, and a really good player. And so, this team, Missouri State got beat 23-16 at Oklahoma State last year. They got beat by 7. And Oklahoma State was number 7 and went to the Fiesta Bowl, beat Notre Dame, and they got a pretty good team. Now we can't turn the ball over, and we got to get better at tackling. We got better at covering and all those types. We have to, but it might be you take the logo off and you put somebody else's logo on there, and you'd say, man, we didn't play very well, but thank God we got the win. I'm pretty sure didn't flaw Oklahoma State season when they went to the Big 12 championship and to the Fiesta Bowl. I think they're a good team with a good coach. It shouldn't have been that way, but you got to give them credit. They were well coached. They came out, they had a Thursday night game, so they had a couple extra days, and they had, it's like anything in sport. If you have a reason, and they had a reason, it was, we're down the road, not very far. Coach Petrino, you have a reason. They're hard to beat if you don't play well. And we didn't. And a lot of it was because they made us look bad as well.
Any indications last night on what Jashad Stewart will look like, and whether Dominique says he's ready to go?
Well, Dominique, we could have played him. He was ready. We just didn't. And on Stu, I think we got to wait today and tomorrow to kind of see how he looks. If I was saying today, I think he'll be able to play, but I haven't seen him. The training staff has, but I haven't seen him.
Sam, getting Slusher back, how big a boost? You can talk about the coverage issues you're having. How big a boost could his return be to help your
I think
coverage issues?
huge. I mean, anytime you get somebody back, it's not just a guy you're getting back, but then you take somebody off the field as well. You know what I mean? And so you get better both ways. You get a better player on, you get a worse player off the field. And I mean, and that's not saying who we're going to take off the field. I'm just saying then bringing him back, because Slush can play corner, he can play nickel, he can play field safety, he can play boundary safety. And then with him, it allows us to have another opportunity to make sure we have our 5 best players on the field. So I think it's really big.
About your receivers, what strides have you seen from Hazelwood the first 3 weeks? And then would you like to see more of Keytron Jackson moving forward?
Well, Hazelwood, I think he's been pretty solid all year. I don't know that. I think his leadership's probably a little bit better than what it was at the beginning, which was really good anyway. I think Hazelwood's been probably the most consistent of those guys, and then, but I always say this, he's a leader now. He's tough and he's a leader. I love the kid. And then Keytron, yeah, I mean, we could look at 10 personnel to get him out on the field, but then you're taking, Trey off the field. I kind of like the way the rotation's going right now. So obviously Keytron, I'm sure, would like to play more, and he's earned that right. And I think he's getting a few more reps than what he did early in the year.
On Rocket, I think he's already got more 20+ yard plays than he had all of last season. Is there something that he's doing different, or maybe something that the players are doing around him differently that's allowing him to have those bigger gains?
I think the line's better. I think our offensive line's playing better. I mean, you watch the tape too. So, he's breaking a few more tackles than he did last year too. I think he's just more confident. So he probably half stride faster than he was last year because he's seeing things quicker, which will allow for those little longer runs. He's playing really well.
When he breaks those off, there's I don't know if you notice this, and I wonder if you do, but a big buzz that comes across the stadium, like during that big touchdown run the other night. Is that something you notice on the sideline? Or
no, I can't hear anything. I mean, and then when I jump on the assistants, I can't hear them either because they don't ever say nothing, but I can't hear anything once the game starts. I don't hear I really don't. It's sad because I wish I could hear it, but not whenever it ain't positive, but I can't hear it. Thanks, guys. All right, guys.